Hey, it's Aaron, metal theologian. And I left my e-cigarette somewhere else. So let me start out by grabbing that. Walking off camera, my signature move, right? Anyway, this is sort of a semi-response to the last video that Pat from Ground Zero Salem made. This is for anyone who wants to watch it. But I was really sort of tickled to see him like dabbling in the German shit. And yes, I just want to pull out some of my favorite German ones. I kind of hate the expression Krautrock. First of all, because it kind of sounds kind of stupid and dismissive. You know, it's sort of like hair metal. I hate that expression too, and I don't even like that shit. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's dismissive of, you know, a genre that doesn't really be deserved. I mean, even if I don't like it myself, I don't think it deserves to be dismissed in that sort of cavalier way. You know what I mean? And Krautrock, I kind of feel like it's the same thing. Especially if it's really just anything from Germany. And it's like a whole bunch of different styles because, you know, it's not like fucking, you know, Portugal or something, or Sweden where there are only a few people there. You know, it's a big country with a lot of different styles. So, we were actually just listening to the last little bit of this one here. Kind of a straight up prog album, more or less, but it's on the rockin' side. And, you know, one thing about the German stuff is it really has its own vibe. That's different from anything you hear out of the US or the UK. Here, I'll flip this actually and let it run for a couple more minutes. I haven't played these in a while, so I had to clean them because they're dusty. My fucking records are sliding all over the place too, because I was going to pull out a couple and I ended up pulling like a fuck ton. Yeah, a lot of these records, even the ones that are like sort of like prog rock records, you know what I mean? They don't sound like the English stuff. And in fact, I don't want to say one of the most disparaging things that I can say about a German band is that they sound overly English, because that sounds kind of shitty and it's not really true. But it is a different vibe, you know what I mean? Even when these bands are sort of noodly and that sort of thing, or fusion-y even, you know, a lot of them are really pretty fusion-y. Not so much what I've shown here, but some of the bands like Collective or Ex Magma or some of those, or Eilif. They really sort of go into that kind of fusion territory, but even so, it just comes off, has a different feel from the stuff coming out of Britain at the same time. So yeah, so we're going to talk about a few of these. One little bit of housekeeping, actually. There's one thing I was going to show in the last video. Because I'd actually pulled out a copy of this fucking Misfits record to listen to while I was watching Metallurgy. And yeah, there's something here that I'd kind of forgotten about. I had this record since I was in high school. Yeah, but it's funny. Every time I pull this out, I'm like, God, why do I have such an old-looking inner sleeve in there? And then I remember, oh, it's because it's still with the Pat Benatar autograph. See that shit? I can't authenticate that or anything. I have no idea where this inner sleeve came from at this point in time. That sure looks like a Pat Benatar autograph to me. So yeah. What's the connection between Pat Benatar and the Misfits? Well, there you go. Also, I gotta show these real quick too. I was talking about the Fugs. Favorite band, but I also have to hype the Gods. And there's a band from Ohio also called the Gods, which are kind of fun, like biker rock, kind of stupid, but you know, like I said, fun. But this band from New York was just like, it was like the Fugs, only like the next level. You know what I mean? So this is the first one, Contact High with the Gods, which is actually the very first record I ever set away for on the internet. Got it from a record store in Omaha that had a website up, and they had this, and I was like, you really had Contact High with the Gods on record? Oh my god. And this one actually, if I'm not mistaken, I bought this at Reckless in San Francisco, but Gods 2, with this great comic on the back. Yeah, and these are both on the ESP label, so that's sort of the foolproof way to do it. I mean, they're also from the late 60s. The other Gods were from the mid-70s, the Ohio band. But there's the label for Gods 2. And there it is. The ESP disc label. Anyway. I don't even want to, like, spoil it for what you're in for if you're listening to the Gods. Because they're just a fucking, like, a force of nature. So, yeah. I will say that this record has a cover of You Won't See Me on it. and it is one of the very few Beatles covers that not only does not annoy me, but I actually find really entertaining. So, there you go. Alright, cool. I have a whole bunch of German shit here, so I'm gonna get to it, or else this video is gonna drag on forever. So we're listening to Zarathustra right now, and this is kind of giving you an idea as, I think, as sort of the prog sound that you hear in these kinds of bands. So, this band, most of these are reissues, by the way, so it's not going to be like Grails and shit. But a lot of them are on specific labels, actually, too. This one's on... I'm pretty sure this is a second battle reissue. I don't see the logo on here anyway. This is the Sperrmühle record. One thing that a lot of these bands did is they had their band name was in German, but then they sang in English, which I kind of don't get. This one, honestly, owes a fair bit to King Crimson, especially on like the second song, No Freak Out, and some of the places where they go on the second side. But like when these guys, but like Me and My Girlfriend, the very first song was like just like a straight like rock song that's just like fun with this like sort of playful mandolin shit in it too. And again, not overly wanky, and it's just like a fun record to listen to. You know, it has the prog thing going on about the same level, but you know, sort of has its own thing going here. This one's maybe a little bit heavier than that one even, but there's a band called Wind on their record Seasons. They did make another record after this, which I haven't heard myself, but I understand it's a lot more sort of prog and less sort of hard rock. And this one's pretty rockin'. You know, again, has some of these prog moves, but check out this fucking hair on those guys, right? Probably took some effort to get that shit going. Anyway, awesome band. Again, some prog moves, but some pretty heavy stuff too, man. A lot of these songs really start out with a bang, too. This is another one that people don't really talk about a whole ton, called Lava. Tears Are Going Home. You gotta love it. You know, a native English speaker wouldn't have come up with a name like that. I'm not sure what that even means, though, but these guys are probably more straight-ahead rock than some of these other ones in prog, but again, a really cool record, and just sort of unusual shit, you know what I mean? A lot of these on the Brain label, you're going to see a lot of that. You're probably going to see even more ore, but we'll see, because I kind of just went over and pulled a bunch of shit out. At one point, I was trying to collect everything I could on the ore label, which is this. In case you're not familiar with it, but Or was like the label in Germany as far as like sort of the weirdo, like sort of progressive stuff, and it had stuff like this. I mean, this is the second Birth Control album, Operation. Absolutely fantastic record, man. Their first record's good. They got a little bit proggy, a little bit too proggy, a little bit of English after this one, honestly. But this record is just like a hard rocker with lots of heavy organ and shit. And some weird choruses in place where you don't expect it, and it's just it's a really fun record and fantastic. Sort of going through here trying to find some different ones to sample as we go. I kind of hope it doesn't affect the visibility, because one thing about these records is a lot of them came out on, you know, real labels. You know, not like the indie shit that I'm usually playing here, so you know, rights holders might, let's put it this way, if there are ads on this video, it's because of people other than me. People who, like, own the rights to these records or some shit like that. So this one right here is another favorite, and this one's actually sung in German. This is Drosselbart. What a cover, huh? And check out the back of this. Yeah, this one is also very proggy, but this is one of the best examples, I think, of sort of the darkness that you hear in the German prog. Because this shit, look, and this was a Polydor release, man. I actually don't know if there's a legitimate reissue or not, but I don't really care, because I was so happy to be able to find this shit on record. In a way, this stuff kind of got me back on records. When I sort of realized I could find, like, some of this stuff, it was kind of when I really gave up on CDs. Because part of why I got into CDs in the first place was to get shit that I couldn't find on record. And this German shit I didn't think I'd ever have a prayer of finding. So. Gotta love that electric keyboard. That fake piano sound. Awesome. So there are a couple of bigger bands here. One of the ones I want to talk about is Popo Vu, actually. Because they're kind of known for, I mean, like all the soundtracks and shit they did later on. And more power to them for that, you know what I mean? And some of their records are more like prog with like Einzjäger and Siebenjäger and Hosiana Mantra and Seligpreisung. But the first two were just like these weird like electronic records. This is the first one, Affenstunde. Which I remember in Julian Cope's book, he translated that as a Hour of the Monkey King, which I think is funny. It really means 8th hour. I don't know about the Monkey King. I mean, maybe he knows something I don't, but that seemed like a little bit of liberty taken there. Yeah, there we go. This one is a real one, too. On Liberty. I don't need to pull it out or else it'll take forever. Anyway, it's a really weird one. Lots of like Moog synth on this one. And Tabla, it's just a weird record, and so is the second one. Indian Gaten Pharaohs in the Gardens of the Pharaoh. And again, this is mostly an electronic record, you know, and it's not like weird electronic stuff like the way, you know, like some of the classical stuff that was coming out of these computer labs, different schools where, you know, it's more structured than that, but definitely experimental in spirit. And I mean, if you like the Moog synth, you're just gonna love both these fucking Popo Vus. After that one, I care about them a lot less. I like some of those other records too. I really like Einzjäger and Siebenjäger. I think Hosiana Mantras kind of sucks. I like Seligpreisung, and I haven't really ventured a whole lot beyond that. Actually, another band too I want to sort of highlight the first two records is Tangerine Dream, because similarly, they went and did soundtracks and shit. But their first two were really trippy. This is actually one of the first 4 releases. It's Electronic Meditation. And it's funny because this is like an all-star record. This is it's Edgar Fruze, who is like the main guy behind this band anyway. Then Klaus Schulze playing drums. And Conrad Schnitzler playing cello. And some other shit, you know? Actually, let me show you the gatefold. It's pretty fantastic. Look at that. Anyway, very cool record. The second one isn't quite as... I mean, this one's really pretty out there. This is about as experimental as they ever got and sort of, you know, weird in a really cool way. I wouldn't say it sounds like the first, like the early Popo Vu records, but they have, you know, certain things in common as far as... records to get through here. Okay. Anyway, this is the second one. This one has a lot more organ on it. This is one of my favorite middle of the night records, actually. This is Alpha Centauri. It's the second one. Also on the Ore label. Yeah, absolute banger. Here's another one. Oh, actually, this one's almost a straight hard rock record. Again, it has a little bit of a prog thing going. This one's an original, too. This is the first record by Harry Chapter. It's actually the second record because their first record came out in sort of like this weird like budget series. It was called Electric Sounds for Dancing. And it had some woman on the cover. And it was like sort of earlier versions of these songs. But then they sort of redid them for this and did it a lot heavier. And the band photos on the back. The singer looks funny, but not as funny as this guy whose head is just sort of hanging out right there. I love that shit. Anyway, hard rockin' record, man. This is really cool. You know, it's not the second coming of Black Sabbath, but if you like the heavy shit, I think you'll be satisfied with a little bit of Harry Chapter. Their second record is more proggy than this one, but it's still like hard rock, and it's also excellent. Can't Get Through, it's called. I couldn't pull everything. This is another one that's mostly just a rocker. I've probably raved about this a bunch of times. This is like one of my favorite records ever. But the self-titled record by Geronimo. Yeah. This one, I don't know, man. I've had this record memorized. Like, every song just has a great hook. It sort of drives all the way through. Even when it slows down, it keeps you going. It keeps that forward momentum going. The next thing you know, the record's over. That's absolutely fantastic. It's another Second Battle reissue, by the way. You're going to see a lot of Second Battle and a lot of Orvashel. Um, this is a weird one. This is a reissue. I don't even know when this is from. Apparently the original cover had like a whole bunch of fold-out shit. This is just like a normal cover, okay? This band, Carthago, is just Carthage in German. Same deal, like the German name of the song titles are in English. This record, I should probably put it on for a minute. This sounds closer to Funkadelic than just about anything else that I've heard. You know, like the early sort of more rockin' Funkadelic. But like it goes off in this weird like funky direction in a way that's really unique. And even they couldn't replicate it on subsequent records. I don't remember how many more records they made. I could have told you 20 years ago, but you know. I can't remember shit these days. That's not quite true. Yeah, but this is a really weird vibe, this one. On the BASF label. They started out as a fertilizer company. I think some of us know them because they made tapes that we bought in the 80s, blank tapes. But they also put out some records. They put out this. They put out the Gift record. I think they might have put out that Wind record, but I'm not sure. A few things from Germany, though, so... We'll see if memory serves on this one because I haven't played it in a while, you know? I haven't gone on a kick with this shit in kind of a long time, but like in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was really into this stuff, I spent a lot of time listening to these bands. There we go. Alright, this is another one. Gamora made a few records. See what I mean about that funk groove? Like, it's a 70s rock record. You know? But it's a funky beat, you know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, I turned to see whose voice it was. This other band was sort of a weird thing because their first album was called Trauma. And I think they did English, if I'm not mistaken, they did a version in German and then they did a version in English. But they re-recorded it and then they put this one out as sort of their second record that was kind of their third. Anyway, Gamora. Really cool record. Pretty firmly in the prog camp, this one. But again, if you're digging some of these other ones, you're gonna dig that one a lot. I sure as hell do. This is another really dark one. This is probably closer to like Drosselbart. Yeah, sort of to that area than a lot of these. But Eulenspiegel. And this is actually the first record that's called Eulenspiegel 2. Because they had, the same guys, they had a beat band before this called the Royal Servants. And apparently the Royal Servants put out a record. I never got deep into that beat shit, so I never really dug for it. But Eulenspiegel is fantastic. Again, it's prog, but it's dark, man. I mean, that cover kind of gives you a little bit of a clue, you know? And then this, I don't know, man. It just looks sort of dark, you know? I don't think I've ever seen an egg look so intimidating as on the back of this record, but great band. Eulenspiegel. That's a weird way of spelling it in German, too, by the way. All right. All right, this is definitely another prog one. I like this one a lot. I almost feel like I have to show this one because it's kind of well known. No, this isn't an original. Those are worth a lot. I actually had one once upon a time, but sans the time and all. 2066 and then Reflections on the Future. It's a prog record, but it's really cool, man. Just the songs are good. Again, it isn't overly masturbatory or anything like that. And it still rocks. It has that sort of darkness to it, you know what I mean? 2066 and then. Apparently they got that name because they took the year of the Battle of Hastings and added 1,000 years to it. Given that Germany didn't exist yet, but the Holy Roman Empire wasn't really involved in the Battle of Hastings, so I don't really know why they found that significant, but you know. All right, this is one that I pulled out. This is kind of especially for Pat because this is like early punk rock just about. This is a band called Tonsteine Scherben, which is like clay, stones, and glass fragments. Shards. And this is 1971. I'm gonna throw it on for a minute. See what I mean about that fucking Cartago record, though? It's a weird record. In a really cool and unexpected way. I'm whipping through these records, but it took me years and years to assemble this collection of this shit, so... I was gonna do 5 random records out of my German section, but I was like, man... First of all, it's not impossible. I'd pick out 5 mediocre ones, and I just wanted to go for the good ones here, right? But second of all, I was like, man, 5 is nowhere near enough. Alright, where did I put that Tonsteiner Scherben? Alright. Warum geht es mir so dreckig? It's called. It's, why is it going so shittily for me? Or shitty? Yeah. The first song is, I don't want to become what my old man is. It's funny how boomer coded some of the shit is, even though. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be like an 80s hardcore record or something like that, obviously. But definitely stripped down. Definitely not like Krautrock. You can't compare this to the Cosmic Jokers, you know, or Asherah Temple, or Can. By the way, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you know Can, you know Faust, you know Neu. You probably maybe know the Cosmic Jokers, you probably know Asherah Temple. Although I did pull out this one just to show because it's a fucking favorite. This is my favorite Asherah Temple record. I think it's the easiest one to listen to. The first one is like just these long jams, like 2 long jams, one on each side. And so is Join In. Those are okay, but this one's kind of the most relatable, I think. I know Timothy Leary, I think, is kind of mediocre, actually. I thought about pulling it out just as a flex because I have an original, but I like this record better, so fuck it, man. Schwingungen is where it's at. It means vibrations. This is like, if you know the band Third World War, I think they're from Britain. Here's, let me just pull it out real quick. What the hell? Oh, fuck, hang on. Yeah. These guys are from Britain. This is another record that's sort of like this. Like, sort of like punk rock before there was such a thing. And people say that about a band like the Fugs, too. But the Fugs are really kind of just more like, I don't know, hippies with bad drugs rather than good drugs. And the Fugs were awesome. I'm not shitting on the Fugs for a second. But they weren't quite the same, you can make comparisons. But they weren't quite the same as these guys or Tonsteiner Scherben. So this one is almost more of a folk record. These two guys, Bernd Witthöser and Walter Westrup, made this record called Trips and Träume, like Trips and Dreams. And they made a few records, but this is probably the best one. This is the most psychedelic one, you know what I mean? This is like a really psychedelic folk record. It's like, if you're a folkie, I don't know if you're gonna dig this fucking record at all. But if you're like weirdo psych shit, you can handle a little bit of folk stylings. I'm not into folk music at all, and I love this record. So, I'll say that about it. Alright, gotta shout out Agitation Free, because this is one of the bands that, sort of opened up this whole new horizon for me. Because, like, I knew about, like, actually, I show the cluster records here, just to get it out of the way. What the hell? This is my favorite cluster record. Cluster 2. Electronic, but not entirely. There's guitar and shit on here, too. Kind of noisy for what it is. And absolutely fantastic. I actually had a chance to see Cluster live at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco sometime in the 90s. And I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to see them because it's fucking Cluster, man. Anyway, Agitation Free, I didn't already know about. When I saw this at a shop on CD, someone said, I might dig that. So I checked it out. And again, it has some prog stylings, but it's more psychedelic than prog, I would say. And they made 3 records. Malesh is the first one. This one's just called Second. That's the second one. And the third one was called Last. And this is the one that got me into them. So this is the one I felt like I had to show. But any of those 3 is great. I'd probably recommend this one or Last over Malesh. But if you see a copy of Malesh, you wouldn't be going, you wouldn't be doing anything wrong by buying it. That's for damn sure. Alright, so let's do the Almond Duel. So there were 2 Almond Duels, of all names, right? There was Almond Duel, which I guess was like some sort of like hippie commune, and they like just made recordings like sitting there beating on drums and shit. And then some of them got together and decided they wanted to be a real band, and they were Almond Duel 2. So Almond Duel 2, my favorite Almond Duel 2 record is this one, Yeti. And their first, 4, 5, something like that, are pretty essential. This one, it's funny, the light and color and the thing changes when I hold it up there, I guess. Anyway, yeah, this one I think is where they reach sort of the best balance between, sort of their weirdness of what they were doing and also just, really good songs. Yeah, I love this fucking record. Phallus Day is great. Dance of the Lemmings is great. This one just fucking blows me away, though. That's the one. My favorite Almond Duel 1 record is this one, Collapsing. This has this plain black cover, but then all this crazy shit like the gatefold. Look at that. And this one is definitely more like a bunch of fucking guys, taking a lot of drugs and beating on drums and, hacking whatever instruments are available. But if there are 4 records I think they made, a couple with, at least one was a double. Psychedelic Underground is really good, Disaster is really good too, but this is my favorite. So, so Almond Duel 2 is where to start, but don't snooze completely on Almond Duel 1. Alright, we're down to the last few here. And I want to play this one band that I always like to hype, because this record's actually kind of cheap. And no one seems to know about this fucking record. It's funny, I'm playing some of the least representative ones, but I don't know, such is life. So this is Sparefanko. I think that's how you say it. And it's called Bayern Rock, Bavaria Rock, actually, is what it means. And this record, okay, it's a weird record. People tend to not like it because they're total prog heads and they're listening to shit and they're like, what the fuck are these guys doing, right? But, these guys were almost like the Velvet Underground, singing in a Bavarian dialect. That's so thick that I have trouble understanding it. And I lived in Nuremberg for 5 years. Or not in Nuremberg, I was in Erlangen, but in the Nuremberg area. Anyone who actually knows Germany. I'm bumping it in a little bit because I sort of want to get to the second song, but that gives you an idea as to the sound. At least leave a few of these as I go so I don't have too much of a mess later on. Alright, anyway. keep it going. Conrad Schnitzler made a lot of solo records. This one is my favorite. Actually, with one of the guys from Tonsteiner Scherben, Wolf Sequenza. And this one's later than most of the other ones. This is like 80 or 81, something like that. Yeah, I don't see it right off. But this is kind of what I wish new wave sounded like. It's really sort of minimalist, has all these sorts of like synth sounds, that sort of thing to it, but it sort of like fades in and out, and like some of it's in English and some in German, and it's just sort of, it's really easygoing, but like it has this sort of like intensity like right under the surface. Absolutely fantastic record by Conrad Schnitzler. Maybe not the most representative because he tended to do shit that was further out than this sort of thing. Yeah, there's a song I was going for. I don't know if the songwriting this sounds like the Velvets, but the color of it, you know what I mean? And when they were sort of jamming, it was a little bit more like that too, you know? But this is such a weird song, man. I had to fucking go for it. Alright, Silberbart, another one that's pretty prog-coded, 4 times sound raising. It took me a few years to figure out that it's 4 times sound raising because there are 4 songs on here. So they're raising sound 4 times. And how about the song titles, man? Chub Chub Cherry, Brain Brain, God, and Head Tear of the Drunken Sun. Absolutely great record, man. This one's kind of crazy. It's like, it's a 3-piece. And it's like, they're leaving it all on the fucking, they're putting it all out there, man. They're not holding anything back. There's just, like, it's like a 3-piece band wanted to make a prog record, but they were really good hard rockers. And they were going to freak out every time they went there. And they could do, like, sort of the peaks and valleys and that kind of shit. But it's just a really weird record, man. That's fantastic. This one is actually sung in German. This one's a little bit more disciplined than that one, but Gaia, like Gaia is what that is. So that means on the train to Uranus. Or Uranus, if you're going to be mature. But great record. Lots of different sort of weird bits and pieces to it. Awesome shit. Here's another one I think is a little bit underrated, Andromeda. This is actually a 2-piece. It's organ and drums duo. I'd probably get the Attila record before getting this one because I love that record dearly, but this is in a similar sort of vein, and it's really cool, man. And what a weird-ass cover, right? I mean, look at that fucking faces cut on it and shit. Let's see. Gotta shout out Necronomicon. Because this was the other one, along with the Agitation Free that I showed earlier, that really sort of got me like deeper into the German shit. Yeah, it has a big fold-out cover and shit like that. On a reissue label, actually, a lot of these too are on Amber Sound Room. I forgot to mention them earlier, but it's a label that about 20 years ago was releasing reissues of a lot of this shit, and I snapped up everything I could. Just about everything they released, actually. Another one on, was the Second Battle, but their CD was on Orvaschel, so I associate them with that. What about that cover, man? This is a little bit more prog than heavy, and it has a lot of saxophone on it. So this record took me a couple listens to sort of get my head around, but yeah, man, it's another fucking banger. You know, like it's worth those few listens that it takes to get your head around it. And the last one in this stack here is, I don't know, this could be like a lost Pink Floyd record or something, man, but this is My Solid Ground. They made this one record, and definitely pretty Floydy, but again, it has its own vibe, you know what I mean? Like, the Germans take Pink Floyd and they digest it, and something like weird and dark comes out, you know what I mean? It didn't just start with like the metal that most of y'all love, as do I, that came around in the 80s. We're like, fuck, man, what was Destruction? What the fuck were they on, man? Yeah. Alright, so that was like a real quick run through some of my favorite German records. And I could have pulled out at least 20 more. But this is what I went with today. Kind of wish I'd pull out Dome Edge of Time, but it's probably just as well. Alright, anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe to Ground Zero Salem. Subscribe to High Definition TV, too, if you haven't watched him, because he's been on this shit lately, too, and, you know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.